Before we tell you about the resignation, we need to take you somewhere else. Fallujah, Iraq. November 2004. You are 24 years old. You are crouched behind a concrete wall in the most dangerous city on earth. Fallujah, a city the insurgents had spent months turning into a fortress. Every doorway rigged, every rooftop a firing position, every mosque an ammunition depot. The enemy dug into trenches, tunnels, and booby-trapped homes throughout the entire city. They take pot shots over and around walls. They move house to house through blown-out holes in concrete, mattresses booby-trapped with grenades, tripwires stretched across dark hallways. This is Operation Phantom Fury, the bloodiest urban combat American forces had fought since the Battle of Hue City in Vietnam. And you are a Green Beret. You are not here by accident. You chose this. Your name is Joe Kent, born in Sweet Home, Oregon. You enlisted in the Army at 17 years old. 17. You completed airborne school, earned your way into the elite 75th Ranger Regiment, and applied for Special Forces just days after watching the Twin Towers fall on September 11, 2001. You didn't wait to be called. You ran toward it. By August 2003, you are in Baghdad with ODA 535, Operational Detachment Alpha, conducting combat operations in Ramadi, Hilla, and Fallujah, 2 7-month tours back-to-back. You earn your first 2 Bronze Stars in the sand and blood of Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars before most men your age had paid off their first car. In 2005, you're back, this time in Rabia, Mosul, and Tal Afar, in Operation Restore Rights, another Bronze Star, 3rd one now. In 2009, Mosul again, Operation New Dawn, multiple combat operations, Bronze Star number 5. In 2010, Yemen, you are living out of a safe house in Sana'a, hunting terrorists in one of the most lawless countries on earth. By 2013, you are selected for a Special Missions Unit, a Tier 1 designation comparable to Delta Force, the absolute tip of the spear. You deploy again to Kirkuk, Iraq in 2016, back to Yemen in 2017, 11 deployments total, 6 Bronze Stars, 20 years. This is not a resume. This is a life completely given over to one purpose, keeping America safe. And then, January 16, 2019, Manbij, Syria. Her name is Shannon Kent, Navy cryptologist, 9 combat deployments of her own, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. She is one of the most decorated enlisted women in the United States Navy. She is 35 years old. She is the mother of 2 boys, ages 4 and 2. She is your wife. You married her in 2013, 2 soldiers who understood exactly what they had signed up for and chose each other anyway. On this morning, she is moving through the streets of Manbij with her team, American service members embedded with Kurdish forces, fighting what's left of ISIS. A suicide bomber walks into a restaurant as she passes. The blast kills Sharon and 3 other Americans instantly. You are deployed when you get the call. You wait at Dover Air Force Base for her body to come home draped in a flag. 2 boys are waiting at home. They still ask where their mother is. Most men would have collapsed. Joe Kent did not collapse. He got angry. The right kind of angry. He looked at Shannon's death and said she died because Republicans and Democrats consistently lied to the American people to keep us engaged in wars abroad. Not grief-talking. Clarity. After retiring from the Army in 2018, Kent joins the CIA Special Activities Center, the most covert unit in American intelligence, paramilitary operations, high-risk missions, the work that doesn't appear in any report, any headline, or any history book. From Fallujah to Yemen, from the front lines of the war on terror to the back channels of American intelligence. This man has been on the front line of America's national security for over 2 decades. And in February 2025, Donald Trump calls him up and says, "I need you at the top." Trump nominates Joe Kent as director of the National Counterterrorism Center. The Senate confirms him 52-44 in July 2025. His job, oversee America's entire counterterrorism enterprise, maintain the database of every known and suspected terrorist on the planet, serve as the president's principal counterterrorism advisor. Every threat to this country, every plot, every signal crosses his desk. Trump calls him the man who will help eradicate all terrorism, from the jihadists around the world to the cartels in our backyard. Joe Kent takes the chair. He gets the briefings. He sees everything.
Now, February 28, 2026, the bombs start falling on Iran. The United States and Israel launch coordinated strikes. The war begins. Trump cites an imminent threat from Iran to justify the attack without congressional approval. But in classified briefings to Capitol Hill, Pentagon officials tell a different story. Iran was not planning to attack unless struck first. Imminent threat. That phrase matters more than you know. Under U.S. law, imminence is the legal prerequisite for a president to launch military strikes without Congress to attack a sovereign nation. The war is 3 weeks old now. 1 million people have been displaced in Lebanon as Israel launches its ground assault. 2,500 American Marines aboard the USS Tripoli are steaming toward the Middle East, an amphibious assault force, the kind you send when you are thinking about putting boots on the ground. American pilots are dead. American bases are being struck by Iranian missiles. And the man sitting at the top of America's counterterrorism apparatus, the man who has seen every classified briefing, is watching all of this. And he knows something Washington doesn't want you to know. March 17th, 2026. Joe Kent picks up a pen. He writes a letter directly to the President of the United States, not to the press, not to Congress, directly to Trump. And here is what he says, in his own words, the words of the man whose entire mandate was to know the truth. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. The Director of National Counterterrorism cannot support this war. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. The man whose legal job was to know if America was under threat says it wasn't. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States, and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie, and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war. He's not calling Trump his enemy. He's telling Trump he was used. And then, the line that stops everything. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people. Shannon's name, in a resignation letter, from the man who watched her come home in a flag. That is not politics. That is a man who has paid every price this country can ask and is saying, not again. So what does Washington say back? Trump, asked about the resignation of his own hand-picked counterterrorism director, says, I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security. Weak on security. The man with 6 Bronze Stars. The man with 11 combat deployments. The man who hunted terrorists in Fallujah, Mosul, Yemen, and North Africa for 20 years. The man who lost his wife to a suicide bomb. Weak on security. Tucker Carlson responds, Joe is the bravest man I know, and he can't be dismissed as a nut. And Senator Mark Warner, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, a man who voted against Kent's confirmation, releases a statement that says, on this point, he is right. There was no credible evidence of an imminent threat from Iran that would justify rushing the United States into another war of choice in the Middle East. The right says he's a hero. The left says he's right. And the White House declines to comment. Here is where we are right now. 1 million people displaced in Lebanon. Israel's ground assault has begun. 2,500 Marines on an amphibious assault ship headed toward the Persian Gulf. A war that was supposed to be swift with a clear path to victory, now in its 3rd week with no end in sight. America currently has no director of the National Counterterrorism Center during an active war. And the one man in the entire United States government whose sworn duty was to walk into the Oval Office and tell the president the truth just walked out the door. Because the truth he carried was too heavy to stay silent. Joe Kent is not a perfect man. His record is complicated, his politics sharp, his associations questioned. None of that changes what he is at his core. A soldier who bled for this country before most of Washington had ever held a real job. A husband who waited at Dover Air Force Base for the woman he loved. A father raising 2 boys who will one day ask, Dad, why did you quit? And he will look them in the eyes and say, because I knew the truth, and I refused to be the last honest man in a room full of liars.